Bonnie and Clyde. Them and the Barrow gang was wreaking havoc in the Midwestern United States. The gang, they included Clyde's older brother at one time, Buck. We'll hear a lot about him, and his wife Blanche. We'll hear a lot about her. As well as Raymond Hamilton, W.D. Jones, Joe Palmer, Ralph Fultz, and Henry Methvin. Their crime spree really caught the American public's attention. They did between 1931 and 35. Right after, during, and right after Prohibition.
Here's something interesting. While they remember today mostly for their bank robberies, about a dozen or so, they actually preferred hitting smaller, easier targets, like gas stations in the country, little corner stores.
Little mom and poppers.
Right. Not big banks. The Barrow gang is believed to have killed at least 9 police officers along the way, plus several civilians. And of course, their story ends violently, as we all know. Bonnie and Clyde were ambushed and shot to death by officers near Sales, Louisiana on the 23rd of May, 1934. Not only shot dead, they were literally
shot to death.
Right. Oh, my goodness. And they were paraded through town just like Billy the Kid.
Basically.
It was one of the most colorful and dramatic manhunts the nation has seen up to that point.
Outlaws and gunslingers. Real stories, the way they actually happened. Yeah, but before we get too far ahead, we got to rewind and look at where they each came from. Old Bonnie Parker was born October 1st, 1910 in Rowena, Texas. Second of 3 children, born to Charles and Emma Krause. When Bonnie was just 4, her father died, and her mother moved to the family to Cement City. It was an industrial suburb that we know today as West Dallas. They went to live with their grandparents, and Mommy had to go back home.
Right. By her second year of high school, Bonnie, she met a boy. Roy Thornton was his name. The 2 of them ended up dropping out of school and doing the old, oh, I love you, you love me, blah, blah, blah. And you start walking away your way, and I'll start walking mine, right? Or some shit.
Meet in the middle?
Right. They got married on the 25th of September, 1926. Just 6 days before Bonnie's 16th birthday. But this wasn't a fairy tale marriage. Thornton, he was physically abusive, and the couple had several run-ins with the law. 1929, Roy was sentenced to 5 years in prison for robbery. Damn, so she was in it. Like I said,
she's a troublemaker.
Right, damn. 1929, yep, 5 years for robbery. After that, Bonnie went to live with her grandmommy. She would never see Thornton again in her entire life, so they never even got divorced, huh?
Nope.
But here's the deal. Deal, Jack. Here's a detail that's striking. Well, there it is. They never got divorced. And Bonnie was actually wearing Thornton's wedding ring when she died.
Yeah.
Well, she was like, this is your wedding ring.
Clyde. Well, let's flip over to Clyde. Clyde Chestnut Barrow. He was born March 24th, 1909 near Tellico, Texas. It's a little town southeast of Dallas. He was the 5th of 7 children born to Henry Basil Barrow and Kumi Talitha Walker. Family, they were poor, farmers struggling to get by. In the early 1920s, they moved to West Dallas. Times were so hard that at first the Barrows literally lived under their wagon.
Oh, wow.
Old Clyde's first brush with the law came in late 1926, just like Roy Thornton. Huh?
Right.
Police confronted him over a rental car he hadn't returned on time, and instead of calmly sorting out, he ran. That was his first arrest. Soon after, he was arrested again, this time with his brother Buck for being in possession of stolen turkeys. Only in the early 1900s would that be a thing.
Damn, I didn't know they had rental cars back then.
Of course, why wouldn't they? Between 1927 and 29, Clyde did hold a few legitimate jobs, but more often than not, he was committing crimes. He was a crate. He was a safe cracker. He robbed some stores. And he also stole cars. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, look at that shit. It was easy to steal cars back then. Well, from there, the path that brought Bonnie and Clyde together, eventually made their infamous fate was set in motion. There are a few different stories out there that we all heard about how Bonnie and Clyde first met. But the most credible accounts say it happens on the 5th of January, 1930, at the home of one of Clyde's friends. His name was Clarence Clay.
And Clarence's parents have a real nice marriage.
Right. This is on 105 Herbert Street in West Dallas. Okay, at the time, Clyde was 20, Bonnie 19. Bonnie, out of work, just happened to be staying with a female friend to help her recover from a broken arm.
Oh, jeez.
One day, Clyde dropped by the house, and Bonnie was in the kitchen making some hot chocolate. And that was it. Sparks flew instantly. Both of them were smitten right there on the spot in the kitchen. She forgot about the old hot chocolate and went and robbed a bank.
Most historians agree Bonnie didn't join Clyde because of the thrill of crime. She joined him because she'd fallen in love. She wanted to be with him. Mm-hmm. But that romance got interrupted pretty quickly when Clyde, he was arrested and convicted of auto theft.
Oh, shit.
Now,
is that just as bad as horse theft back then?
Right, so I don't think they're hanging you for stealing cars.
You think they would?
Mm-hmm. Well, though, while Clyde was in jail, Bonnie smuggled a gun to him.
Wow.
On March 11, 1930, Clyde and a few of his cellmates used it to escape. Their freedom didn't last long, though, because within a week they were caught again.
Wow. Holy shit. This time the punishment, well, it was more severe than the last. Clyde, he was sentenced 14 years, hard labor, sent to Eastham Prison. This is in April of 1930. Life at Eastham was hard. It was brutal. While in prison, Clyde ended up killing for the first time. I mean, I guess you had to, right? In a brutal prison like that.
Right.
He used a lead pipe to crush the skull of another inmate. His name was Ed Crowder. That's why Steven's so pissed off today, huh? A man who repeatedly sexually assaulted him. Oh, my goodness.
What happened?
Technically, that was Clyde's first murder. But another inmate, one who was already serving for a life sentence, took the blame instead.
He said, screw it, boy. You're going to get out and live your life. I'm already here.
Young boy, yeah, I'll take the rap.
Well, Clyde, he was desperate to escape the grueling farm labor. So in a move that is shocking as it sounds, he convinced another inmate to chop off 2 of his toes with an axe.
What?
The idea was that the injury would excuse him from hard labor in the fields.
That's not.
It worked.
Did it?
But obviously it also left him with a limp for the rest of his life.
Wow.
And here's the twist. Clyde didn't know that his mother had already been petitioning for his release.
Oh, no.
It's just 6 days after getting his toes chopped off, the petition went through and he was paroled.
Wow.
That happened February 2nd, 1932. I mean, whatever. He didn't know. What are you going to do?
Wow.
That's crazy.
When Clyde walked out, he wasn't the same man.
He had 2 toes less.
2 toes, and he murdered somebody.
Right.
Jeez. Fellow inmate Ralph Foltz, he later said that he watched Clyde change from a schoolboy to a rattlesnake.
Ooh.
Even Clyde's sister admitted something awful sure must have happened to him in prison, because he wasn't the same person when he got out. Once free, Clyde wasted no time. He and Foltz, they started committing a string of robberies. Mainly, they targeted little stores and gas stations and rural populations where they can easily get away. The big goal, it wasn't money. It was stockpiling enough cash.
Wasn't just money.
It wasn't just money. It was stockpiling enough cash and firepower to someday launch a raid on Eastham Prison. Oh, they had revenge on their mind.
Well,
Fucking prison guards were frightened.
trying to get his boys out, probably. Well, but not every job went smoothly. April 19th, Bonnie and Foltz, they were caught in the middle of a botched burglary at a hardware store in Kaufman.
Oh,
The plan was to steal firearms, but instead they both landed in jail.
wow.
Bonnie, she got lucky. She was released after a few months when the grand jury failed to indict her. Foltz, not so lucky. He was tried, convicted, and he served his time. He never would link up with the gang again.
Why the fuck is Bonnie and Foltz doing it?
Right. Meanwhile, Clyde, he kept pushing forward. April 30th, 1932, he acted as a getaway driver in a robbery down in Hillsborough.
Wow.
During the stick-up, the store owner, J.N. Boucher, he was shot and killed.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Even though Clyde had stayed outside in the car, Boucher's wife later identified him from police photographs as one of the shooters.
Oh.
Lying bitch.
Wow. While all this was unfolding, Bonnie was keeping her mind busy in jail by writing poetry. Just a few weeks after her release from the Kaufman County Jail, she reunited with Clyde, setting the stage for the crime spree that would make them legends. By the summer of 1932, things started escalating fast, because on the 5th of August, 1932, Clyde Barrow, along with Raymond Hamilton and Ross Dyer, they were drinking so much moonshine at a country dance in Stringtown, Oklahoma. What started out as a night of drinking turned deadly when Sheriff C.G. Maxwell and Deputy Eugene Moore approached them in the parking lot.
Oh, no.
All fucked up on shine. These boys are like,
Out of nowhere, Clyde and Hamilton, they opened fire. Deputy Moore, dead. Sheriff Maxwell, gravely wounded.
son of a bitch.
Moore became the very first law officer that Clyde and his gang would kill, but not the last. Just a couple months later, October 11th, they were accused of killing a man named Howard Hall during a store robbery in Sherman, Texas. But historians are split on whether it was actually them. Some consider it actually unlikely that Bonnie and Clyde were even involved at all.
Well, Okay, I'd like to see the evidence on that.
Around this time, the federal government started paying attention. Back then, it wasn't the FBI yet. It was still called the Bureau of Investigation, the BOI.
All right.
And what drew their interest was a small but telling piece of evidence.
Uh-oh.
A Ford automobile stolen in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. It turned up abandoned in Jackson, Michigan.
Whoa.
September of 1932. Now, back in Pawhuska, investigators also found another Ford that had been ditched, and that had been stolen out of Illinois.
Damn.
Yeah, because they found receipts and fucking awesome.
Right.
Bonnie and Clyde were possibly could have been the dumbest criminals ever.
Yeah.
This is a thing that you guys are going to see in this era of what we're doing now. That all of these guys did some pretty dumbass things, and they were so sloppy. It's embarrassing.
Right, they're so dumb. So dumb. Agents started searching this abandoned car. Well, they found signs that had recently been occupied by both a man and a woman. Little personal items were left behind. But there was a prescription bottle that really blew the case wide open. The bottle led agents to a drugstore in Nacogdoches, Texas.
Sure.
This is where they discovered that the prescription had been filled for none other than, you guessed it, Clyde Barrow's aunt.
Oh.
Wow. From there, the trail got clear. Investigators learned that his aunt had recently been visited by Clyde, by Bonnie, and by Clyde's brother, L.C. Barrow.
Well, they're known as Buck.
Right. The three of them had been driving a Ford that matched the description of one that's stolen in Illinois. Empty prescription bottle? Well, guess what? Turns out that L.C. Barrow had gotten it from the son of the woman who originally filled it.
So his cousin.
That was enough to connect the dots. From that moment on, the FBI and soon the whole nation was officially hunting Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Wow.
And then, right around Christmas in 1932, another player joined the story.
Who was that?
And that's W.D. Jones.
Oh, shit.
He was just 16 years old, but he'd been a family friend of the Barrow since childhood. He's still a child.
Right.
On Christmas Eve, he teamed up with old Bonnie and Clyde, and that very night, the three of them left Dallas. The next day, Christmas Day itself, they were already killing.
Oh, son of a bitch.
In Temple, Texas, Jones and Clyde stole a car from a young family man named Doyle Johnson. During the theft, they murdered him.
On Christmas morning? Come on.
Barely 2 weeks later, January 6, 1933, Clyde, he killed again. This time, it was Tarrant County Deputy Malcolm Davis. Clyde, Bonnie, and Jones, they'd stumbled straight into a police trap that had been set for someone else entirely. They didn't even know it.
Oh, wow.
By that point, the gang had murdered 5 people since the previous April.
Whoa. Wow. Jeez. Damn. Then here comes another turning point. Because on the 22nd of March, 1933, Clyde's own brother, Buck, he was granted a full pardon and released from prison. Buck and his wife, Blanche, soon joined up with Bonnie, Clyde, and Jones, setting up house together at a little hideout. This was at 3347 and a half Oak Ridge Drive. This is in Joplin, Missouri. Places probably
a YouTube video I just watched literally only like a week ago that some dude visited it, and it's all like preserved and all that shit.
Exactly. I'm sure it is. Fucking people. Family members later said that Buck and Blanche, they weren't planning to stick around for the outlaw life. They had actually hoped to convince Clyde to surrender and finally give up himself to law enforcement. But in the meantime, life in that Joplin hideout was anything but quiet.
Yeah, this is how they're dumb, dude. The gang, they were rowdy. They held loud, alcohol-fueled card games that lasted late into the night in a quiet-ass neighborhood.
Right.
Blanche later remembered they went through a case of beer a day.
Damn.
The manhole came and went at all hours. And at one point, Clyde even accidentally fired a Browning automatic rifle inside the apartment while cleaning it.
Oh, shit.
Neighbors, they didn't dare approach the place directly, but the noise and the odd behavior didn't go unnoticed. Eventually, one neighbor reported their suspicions to the Joplin Popo, and that call would set off one of the most dramatic shootouts in Bonnie and Clyde's story, and it was a dramatic one.
Yeah. By April 1933, Bonnie and Clyde's little hideout in Joplin had already drawn way too much attention, as we just said. And then the police moved in, because on April 13th, a 5-man force split between 2 cars pulled up, thinking they were about to confront a bunch of bootleggers. But what they really found was the Barrow gang.
Yeah, right under their noses.
The coppers approached. Clyde, his brother Buck, young W.D. Jones, they all opened fire. Detective Harry McGinnis killed instantly. Constable J.W. Harriman fatally wounded.
Dead.
Bonnie Parker wasn't just a bystander either. She picked up a Browning automatic rifle.
A bar.
And opened fire, forcing Highway Patrol Sergeant G.B. Caller to duck for his life behind a massive oak tree.
I don't think he would have to duck behind an oak tree, but
The 30 caliber rounds ripped into the tree, spraying splinters in the sergeant's face.
Ugh.
Son of a bitch.
Jeez, in the chaos, Bonnie jumped into the getaway car with Clyde and the others. They even scooped up Blanche from the street. When her little dog got out, and she was an idiot chasing around the streets for it. Snowball.
Oh, wow.
Later, the surviving officers testified that in all the gunfire, they themselves had only fired 14 shots.
Oh, wow.
Still, those few rounds landed. One hit W.D. Jones in the side. Another struck Clyde, but was deflected by the button on his suit coat.
Oh, no shit.
And another ricocheted off a wall before grazing Buck.
Oh, okay, here you go.
Jeez. Well, they got away that day, but they left behind a treasure trove for investigators. Mm-hmm. In the rush to escape, they abandoned nearly all their possessions at the apartment.
Yep.
That included Buck's parole papers.
Oh, you idiots.
Just 3 weeks old. They had a stash of weapons, one of Bonnie's handwritten poems.
Son of a bitch.
And maybe most famously, a camera with several undeveloped rolls of film, and that's where we get all the famous Bonnie with the cigar in her mouth and pointing the gun at Clyde and all those famous pictures. That's where they come from.
Fantastic. I love it. Good for them that they did that. When the film was developed at the Joplin Globe, the photos were dynamite.
Dynamite!
They showed Bonnie, they showed Clyde, and they showed Jones posing, laughing, pointing guns at each other, smoking cigars, drinking whiskey. One photo in particular, they shot of Bonnie with a pistol in her hand and a cigar clenched in her teeth. It was sent out over the newswire. Just like that, old Bonnie and Clyde, no longer just outlaws. They were front page sensations. The press couldn't get enough. John Dillinger might have had movie star looks. And Pretty Boy Floyd had a nickname straight out of Hollywood. But old Bonnie and Clyde, they had something no one else did. Illicit sex appeal. They were young. They were reckless. They were dangerous. And people assumed, of course, that they were sleeping together.
Of course they were.
The photos made them America's newest criminal celebrities. Wow.
Well, for the next 3 months, the Barrow Gang roamed far and wide, from Texas all the way up to Minnesota. In May, they attempted to rob a bank in Lucerne, Indiana, and they successfully pulled off one in Okabena, Minnesota. Along the way, they committed another trademark crime, kidnapping. In Ruston, Louisiana, they stole a car from a man named Dillard Darby, and in the process, also kidnapped him and a woman named Sophia Stone.
Fuck!
This was just one of several incidents between 1932 and 34 where they abducted police officers or robbery victims.
Jeez, these guys.
Oddly enough, though, they usually released their hostages far from home, and sometimes even gave them money to help get them back. Because like, all right, man, all we need is your car. It's a fun. They got off on it.
All right, they loved every minute of it. These stories, both the violent and the strangely sympathetic, made national headlines. But make no mistake, folks, the Barrow Gang, they were ruthless. They didn't hesitate to kill, whether it was an officer or an innocent civilian.
Didn't matter whoever got in their way. Pew.
It wasn't just Clyde or Bonnie pulling the trigger either. Other gang members like Raymond Hamilton, W.D. Jones, Buck Barrow, and Henry Methvin all committed murders. Every fucking one of them. Well, over time, the cold-blooded violence started to chip away at the public's fascination. Photos may have been entertained, but the reality of their crimes was sinking in. They're like, oh, wait a minute.
Now they're like, wait a minute, these guys are actually fucking psycho.
Animals, savages, barely even human. Behind the scenes, the gang's life was unraveling. Blanche later wrote about this in her memoir from prison in the 30s. She described the desperation, the frustration, and how their new notoriety made every day living almost impossible. Restaurants and motels became too risky, so they resorted to cooking over campfires and bathing in cold streams, just like the good old days.
The constant stress of living 5 people to a car wore them down. The endless close quarters turned into nonstop bickering, I bet. Eventually, tensions boiled over. In late April, W.D. Jones, he was driving when he and Clyde stole a car belonging to Dillard Darby. Soon after, Jones had enough. He split from the gang completely and stayed away until June 8th. Well, not completely.
Right.
Cracks in the Barrow Gang, they're starting to show.
10th of June, 1933. Clyde. He was behind the wheel with Bonnie and W.D. riding along near Wellington, Texas. But Clyde missed the warning signs for a bridge that was under construction. The car flipped into a ravine. This is where accounts differ. Some say there was a gasoline fire. Others say that Bonnie was actually doused with acid from the car's battery, which was mounted under the floorboards. Either way, what's certain is the Bonnie suffered horrific third-degree burns to her right leg.
I'm going to say it was the battery acid.
I would say, too. The injuries were so bad, the muscles contracted, pulling the leg up tight. What witnesses called it being drawn up.
Damn.
Her legs were drawn up.
W.D. Jones, he remembered it vividly. He said she'd been burned so bad, none of us thought she was even going to live. The hide on her right leg gone. From her hip down to her ankle, I could see bone at places.
Holy fuck, dude.
Bonnie, understandably, could barely move after that. She either hopped around on her good leg or Clyde carried her.
How the hell is she not getting infections and shit, dude?
They managed to get help from a nearby farm family, but then quickly turned the situation criminal.
Oh, jeez.
They ended up kidnapping Collinsworth County Sheriff George Corey and City Marshal Paul Hardy. 2 lawmen were eventually left handcuffed and wrapped in barbed wire to a tree outside Oklahoma.
Oh, wow. Son of a bitch. Wow. From there, Bonnie and Clyde Jones, they were connected with Buck and Blanche Barrow. They holed up in a tourist court. This is near Fort Smith, Arkansas. They tried to nurse Bonnie's burns, but things spiraled fast. Buck and Jones, they botched the robbery and ended up murdering town marshal Henry Humphrey in Elma, Arkansas. With blood on their hands once again and Bonnie in dire condition, the gang had no choice but to flee again. These guys. By July 1933, they landed at Red Crown Tourist Court. This is south of Platte City in Mizzou. Set up there was 2 brick cabins joined by garages. The gang rented out both. Just across the way was the Red Crown Tavern. That's all you need. A popular hangout for the Missouri Highway Patrolmen. Oh, shit. And if the Barrow gang wanted to stay low profile, well, they did the exact opposite.
I did not hit her. I did not. Well, Blanche, she registered the group as 3 guests, but the owner, Neil Hauser, immediately noticed 5 people climbing out of the car. He also saw Clyde back the vehicle into the garage gangster style.
No.
Clearly, they were planning for a quick getaway if things went bad. Blanche made things worse by paying for the cabins entirely in coins, not bills. Later, she did the same when buying 5 dinners and 5 beers.
You idiot.
The next day, Hauser noticed the group had taped newspapers all over their cabin windows. And again, Blanche paid for 5 meals and nothing but coins.
Wow.
Oh, that's not suspicious.
No, not at all. Her choice of clothing, well, also drew stares. She wore a Jodhpur riding breeches, whatever the hell that is.
Those hats you see, like the rich people equestrian polo fucking pant type deal.
And these were the type of pants that were totally out of place for women in this area. They made such an impression that eyewitnesses were still talking about them 40 years later. Being suspicious, Hauser tipped off to Captain William Baxter of the Highway Patrol, who was a regular at his restaurant. He's like, you might want to check these motherfuckers out. Meanwhile, Clyde and Jones, they went into town for supplies. They picked up bandages, crackers, and cheese. And they also picked up some atropine sulfate, which is medicine they were using to treat Bonnie's badly burned leg. The cashier at the drugstore said that they were very suspicious, and she reported them to the sheriff, Holt Coffey. With Coffey, he had already been warned by authorities in Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas. They said, you need to watch out for strangers buying medical supplies. So he put the cabins under surveillance. Then he looped in Captain Baxter, who called for reinforcements from Kansas City, including an armored car.
Uh-oh. About 11 p.m., Sheriff Coffey led a squad of officers toward the cabins, armed with old Tommy guns.
Uh-oh.
When the shooting started, though, the officers found themselves outgunned. The 45 caliber Thompsons were no match for Clyde's 30 caliber Bar, which is the Browning automatic rifle he'd stolen just days earlier. That was July 7th from the National Guard Armory in Enid, Oklahoma.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, dude. That's what they were using in, like, World War I and shit.
Yeah, it was crazy.
The firefight was chaotic. The gang finally escaped when one bullet short-circuited the horn on the armored car. The blaring horn confused the officers, who thought it was a signal to cease fire. By the time they realized what happened, the Barrow car long gone. But not everyone made it far.
Oh, well, Blanche was eventually captured at Dexfield Park in Iowa, still wearing those same old weird pants. Her husband, Buck, lay nearby, mortally wounded.
Yeah.
He had taken a bullet to the head that left a massive hole in his forehead, no exposed part of his brain. Blanche herself was nearly blinded from glass fragments in both eyes as well. Damn. The gang, badly battered, tried to regroup at Dexfield Park. They abandoned amusement park, which is an abandoned music park near Dexter, Iowa. This was on the 24th of July. They set up camp, but Buck's condition was dire. Sometimes he drifted in and out of consciousness. He was still alive and managing to talk and eat sometimes. But the wound was catastrophic. So bad that Clyde and Jones even dug a grave for him, expecting the worst. Well, when you got a big old hole and you can see his brain, holy shit.
Well, locals, they eventually spotted the gang, noticing the bloody bandages. Soon, officers confirmed what they already suspected. The campers at Dexfield Park were indeed the Barrow gang. At the park, it all came crashing down. Local police officers, backed up by a crowd of about 100 curious spectators, they surrounded the battered Barrow gang. More gunfire broke out, and the chaos immediate.
Jeez.
Clyde, Bonnie, and W.D. Jones managed to escape once again, but Buck wasn't so lucky. Another bullet tore into his back, and he and Blanche were captured. Buck clung to life for a few more days.
Oh, wow.
But between his massive head wound and pneumonia, the fight was over.
Yeah.
He died just 5 days later after surgery at King's Daughters Hospital in Perry, Iowa.
Jeez.
Wow. Dude, I don't know. Holy shit.
Damn. The survivors, well, life on the run became even more desperate. Over the next 6 weeks, Clyde, Bonnie, and Jones, they pushed far outside their usual stomping grounds. They drifted west in Colorado, north Minnesota, and all the way southeast to Mississippi. Still pulling armed robberies wherever they went. Jeez. 20th of August, Clyde Jones. They broke into an armory at Platteville, Illinois. They made off with 3 Browning automatic rifles, some handguns, and a mountain of ammo. It was the kind of firepower Clyde craved of, ensuring their firepower always outmatched the local law.
Jeez. By early September, homesickness drove the gang to risk a trip back to Dallas to see their families for the first time in 4 months. Ooh.
Oh.
That's when Jones decided he'd had enough. He split, headed to Houston where his mother moved. It wasn't a clean break for long because he was arrested there without a fight November 16th and hauled right back to Dallas. Meanwhile, Clyde, he kept up the robberies, sometimes with small-time accomplices.
Right.
While Bonnie's family helped her deal with her severe injuries.
Yeah.
Then, November 22nd, 1933, came a close brush with death near Sowers, Texas. They were supposed to meet family there, but Dallas Sheriff Smoot Schmid and deputies Bob Alcorn and Ted Hinton, they were lying in wait.
Sure in hell were. Son of a bitch. When Clyde rode up and spotted the setup, his instincts kicked in. He drove straight past his family's car, just as the officers opened fire with machine guns, and even a bar. Miraculously, none of the family members caught in the crossfire were hit. But Clyde and Bonnie, they weren't so lucky. A bar round punched through their car, striking both of them in the legs. Even wounded, they managed to escape into the night. These guys just beaten, battered, and holy fuck a duck. 6 days later, it's 28th of November, a Dallas grand jury indicted Bonnie and Clyde for the murder of Tarrant County Deputy Malcolm Davis, which was killed 10 months earlier. For Bonnie, this was the very first murder warrant. And then, January 1934, Clyde upped the stakes again, because on the 16th of January, he pulled off the infamous Eastham breakout. He sprung out fellow criminals Raymond, Hamilton, Henry, and Methvin, and others. From the Texas prison farm.
It was daring, it was violent, and it was exactly what Clyde wanted. He wanted revenge against the Texas Department of Corrections, which is the institution he blamed for so much of his suffering. But the breakout turned the tide. During the escape, gang member Joe Palmer shot Major Joe Croson, who later died in the hospital.
Son of a bitch.
That killing brought the full weight of the Texas and federal governments down on old Bonnie and Clyde.
Sure in hell dead. Son of a bitch.
As Croson lay dying, prison chief Lee Simmons reportedly vowed that everyone involved in the escape would be hunted down and killed. And to make good on that promise, Simmons recruited a legendary name. Who do you think that was?
Oh, yeah.
It was former Texas Ranger Captain Frank Hamer. He had retired, but his commission was still active. He accepted the job as a Texas Highway Patrol officer, secondarily assigned to the prison system. He had one mission and one mission only. Track down the Barrow gang and put an end to them once and for all.
Once and for all. Old Frankie boy, he wasn't the kind of man you called in unless you were ready for a fight to the finish. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and stone-faced. He carried himself with the weight of 2 decades of Texas law enforcement behind him. People said he was the living embodiment of the old saying, one riot, one ranger. Well, He was the kind of lawman who measured justice on his own terms. Over his career, he had been shot 17 times. He killed 53 men and still carried those scars with him.
I would assume.
Some feared him, some admired him, but everyone in Texas knew his name. Prison boss Lee Simmons liked to claim that Hamer had always been his first choice to bring down Bonnie and Clyde. In truth, 2 other rangers had been asked first, but they turned down the job. They weren't willing to shoot a woman. Frank, he didn't hesitate.
Hell no. He said, I'll do it. February 10th, 1934, he started his hunt. From then on, Clyde and Bonnie, they would never quite shake him. Hamer, he lived out of his car, shadowing them, always just a town or 2 behind. He had the patience of a predator and the tenacity of a man who refused to quit. 3 of his brothers were rangers too. And while his brother Harrison might have been the best shot, Frank, he was the one everyone agreed you didn't want on your trail. He didn't care. Then came Easter Sunday, April 1st, 1934. Clyde, Henry Methvin, and Bonnie, they crossed paths with 2 young highway patrolmen, H.D. Murphy and Edward Bryant Wheeler. This was on Route 114 near Grapevine, Texas. Shots rang out, and when the smoke cleared, both officers dead. At the time, an eyewitness swore that Bonnie herself had fired and even laughed as Murphy's body hit the ground.
Oh, wow.
Well, that crazy story made front-page news, of course. Reporters claimed police had found a cigar butt with tiny teeth marks, supposedly Bonnie's.
Oh.
Papers painted her as the cigar-chopping gunwoman who laughed at death.
Oh, wow. The story spread like wildfire. Murphy's fiance wore her wedding dress to his funeral. Newspapers splashed the heartbreaking image across the pages. For the public, Bonnie wasn't just Clyde's companion anymore. Nope. She was a bloodthirsty killer.
She's a psychopath. She's a killer.
Right. The eyewitness's tale would later crumble under scrutiny. But the damage was done. Texas demanded blood. The head of the Highway Patrol, L.G. Fairs, said $1,000 for the bodies of the Grapevine Slayers. Not their capture, just their corpse. They want them dead. Governor Ma Ferguson added another $50 each, and suddenly there was a price on Bonnie's head as well as Clyde's.
And that price also added another zero.
$500 each.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then, only 5 days later, things got worse. How could they get worse?
Right.
Clyde and Methvin, they gunned down Constable William Cal Campbell near Commerce, Oklahoma. He was 60 years old, a widower, and a father. They kidnapped the town's police chief, Percy Boyd, and dragged him across the state line into Kansas. When they let him go, they gave him a clean shirt, a few bucks, and Bonnie even asked him to tell the world she didn't smoke cigars.
Right.
But it didn't matter. Boyd identified both Clyde and Bonnie, sealing her fate in the public mind. It didn't matter. She's a fucking horrible bitch.
Old Blyde and Connie. Connie and Blyde.
Connie and Blyde.
The rest
Bonnie, Connie and Blyde Cheryl.
Right.
Farrow.
Right. The arrest warrant that followed for Campbell's murder listed the suspects as Clyde Barrow, Bonnie Parker, and John Doe.
John Doe.
I'd love to be that John Doe.
Right.
For the first time, Bonnie, well, wasn't just Clyde's companion, as again. She wasn't just along for the ride. She was seen as a murderer.
Well, it's not the first time, but...
Historian John Neal Phillips, he later wrote that whatever chance Bonnie might have had for clemency vanished in that very moment. The Dallas Journal ran an editorial cartoon that said it all. An empty electric chair with a sign that read, "Reserved." At the bottom, 2 names, Bonnie and Clyde. The public didn't just want them caught anymore. They wanted them dead.
They wanted blood. On May 23rd, 1934, that's when they'll get it. Quiet back road in Bienville Parish, Louisiana. End of the line. For months, old Frank Hamer, he'd been shadowing Bonnie and Clyde, mapping their every move, learning their rhythm. Clyde, he had a pattern. He looped through 5 Midwestern states, staying just ahead of the law by slipping over state lines where police jurisdiction ended. Hamer knew it, charted it, and waited. And he knew something else. The gang, they always circled back for family.
Yeah. Just stay home right there, bud. That spring, they were due in Louisiana to see Henry Methvin's folks. Clyde had been designated Methvin's parents' place as a rendezvous in case the gang got split up. And when Methvin drifted off from the group in Shreveport, Frank and his men, they saw their opening. The posse was 6 strong. You had old Frank, Manny Galt, Ted Hinton, Bob Alcorn from Texas, joined by Louisiana's own Henderson Jordan. And there also was Prentice Oakley. Hardened men waiting to settle the score. They're pissed.
Yeah, May 21st, the Texans got word that Bonnie and Clyde, they were heading toward Bienville Parish. They set up along a stretch of Louisiana State Highway 154 south of Gibbsland, which is near the tiny crossroads of Sales. Hinton later said they were dug in by 9 p.m. that night, rifles in hand, waiting in the brush. They waited through the long night, and then in the next day, nothing. Some accounts say they didn't move until the 22nd. Either way, the vigil was agonizing. I bet. They're sitting there.
Jeez. Morning, May 23rd, 9:15 a.m. They heard it. The roar of a Ford V8 coming down that dirt road. It's Clyde's car, and it's coming fast. To seal the trap, the officers had enlisted Henry Methvin's own daddy, old Ivy. They said, you park your car inside the road, act like it's broke. The plan was simple. Clyde, he would slow down to talk, just long enough to bring the Ford alongside the ambush. And guess what, folks? As we all know, it worked.
As the Ford rolled up, still moving, the silence broke. Prentice Oakley squeezed the trigger first without waiting for any order. His bullet caught Clyde in the head, killing him instantly. Hinton swore he heard Bonnie scream. Then the world exploded. The 6 officers opened up with everything they had. Rifles, shotguns, pistols. About 130 rounds tore into the car in less than 20 seconds. By the time it was over, the Ford was a twisted, smoking coffin. Clyde and Bonnie, they were riddled with bullets, each hit dozens of times. For years, they'd walk away from the shootouts scarred but alive. Not this time.
Damn.
Dude, hit instantly in the head, but then shot another 12 times.
Right. Holy shit. Their car, well, it was a 1934 Ford Deluxe V8. Famous, as they were. Originally owned by Ruth Warren of Topeka, Kansas. It was hauled around the carnivals and state fairs like a morbid sideshow. Eventually, it was sold off to collectors, and in 1988, the Prim Valley Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. They said, you know what, I'll give you $250,000 for that. The bullet holes were still there, frozen in steel. Obviously, they just don't disappear. It's not Christine.
All right.
Clyde himself loved Fords. That's why he was a piece of shit. Just months before his death, he even written to Henry Ford, praising this V8 that just took him all over town. He said, while I still have got breath in my lungs, I would tell you what a dandy car you make. I have drove Fords exclusively when I could get away with one. For sustained speed and freedom from trouble, the Ford has got every other car skinned. And even if my business hasn't been strictly legal, it doesn't hurt. It don't hurt anything to tell you what a fine car you got in the V8. It was a strange kind of tribute from an outlaw who built his legend on fast cars, bloody shootouts, and a love story that ended in gunfire.
All right. On that Louisiana road, though, the saga of Bonnie and Clyde ended, but the legend only just begun. The posse that morning wasn't taking any chances. According to one of the men, Deputy Hinton, it went like this. Each of us 6 officers had a shotgun, an automatic rifle, and pistols. We opened fire with the automatics, and before the Ford even got level with us, the rifles were empty. Then we switched to the shotguns. The car looked like it was on fire from the smoke. After that, we went to the pistols. We kept shooting, even if the car stopped in a ditch. We weren't taking any chances.
Damn. Wow. Film footage taken moments after the ambush shows the Ford riddled with holes. 112. About a quarter actually struck Bonnie and Clyde. The coroner's report listed 17 entrance wounds on Clyde, 26 on Bonnie, including multiple headshots.
Good Lord.
One round had snapped Clyde's spine. Undertaker, he was there. He had trouble embalming their bodies because there were just too many holes, old Boots Bailey said.
Couldn't plug them up. Inside the bullet-riddled Ford was enough firepower for a small war. Bars with dozens of loaded magazines, sawed-off shotguns, pistols, thousands of rounds, and 15 stolen license plates. Hamer himself admitted he hated the idea of busting the cap on a woman. But as he put it, if it hadn't been her, it would have been us.
Yeah.
Damn.
Nah, I think once they killed him, she wouldn't have done anything.
Maybe.
I don't think so. She would have gave up right then and there.
Think so?
Yeah, I think so. Wow. News of the ambush traveled very quickly. By the time old Frankie boy, Jordan, Oakley, and Hinton drove into town to call their superiors, the scene had turned into a grotesque carnival. Galt and Alcorn, they stayed behind to guard the bodies, but they were quickly overwhelmed. One woman hacked off bloody locks of Bonnie's hair. Another tore pieces from her dress. A man was caught trying to saw off Clyde's trigger finger. The coroner, they arrived to find people grabbing at everything. Shell casings, shards of glass, even blood-soaked fabric. One man actually pulled out a pocket knife to cut off Clyde's ear.
Jeez.
Wow.
It took Hamer and Hinton together to push them Bob back. The Ford with the body still slumped inside was towed to Arcadia, Louisiana, to the Conger Furniture Store and Funeral Parlor. Hey, why not? Buy your recliner for now and your coffin for later.
Right.
Well, yes. In the back room of that very store, Bailey began the grim work of embalming, while outside, Arcadia itself swelled with the curious. The town of 2,000 soon ballooned to an estimated 12,000 in just hours.
Damn.
People arrived by car, horseback, train, and even plane.
Oh, wow.
Sandwiches sold out. Beer prices spiked from 15 cents to 25.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It was a flat-out circus
Damn.
in old Conger or Arcadia, Louisiana.
Wow. Clyde's daddy, Henry, quietly identified his son's body and then collapsed into a rocking chair in the furniture section, weeping and crying. And then he said, "This is quite comfortable. Pack this one up."
Right. He's like, "Yeah, we'll take that coffin over there, too." I'm surprised they didn't try to charge none of the family members, because clearly they would visit them.
Right. And then there was an eerie twist. Among those who came to identify the bodies were Undertaker H.D. Darby and Sophia Stone, a home demonstration agent. They had once been kidnapped by the Barrow gang.
Oh, yeah.
Bonnie had teased Darby during the ordeal, laughing when she leaned over when she learned that he was an Undertaker. And she said, "Maybe someday you'll be working on me." And in the end, he was.
Was he, though? He just identified the bodies.
Right. Old Bonnie Parker was laid to rest under a stone inscribed, "As the flowers are all made sweeter by the sunshine and the dew, so this old world is made brighter by the lives of folks like you." What?
Okay.
Bonnie and Clyde had made a pact in life. When the end came, they wanted to be buried side by side. But even in death, they were denied that final wish. Because Bonnie's mother said, hell no. She wanted
like that damn Clyde anyway.
Right. She wanted her little girl brought back home. But the mob swarming the Parker house made it impossible.
Well, nevertheless, more than 20,000 people showed up for Bonnie's funeral May 26, 1934.
Damn.
So many, in fact, her family could barely reach her gravesite.
Wow.
Dr. Alan Campbell later recalled the sight of flowers arriving from every corner of the country. One arrangement, allegedly, carried cards from old Pretty Boy Floyd and John Dillinger themselves.
Wow. Wow.
The largest tribute, though, came not from the gangsters, but from newsboys in Dallas.
Oh, shit.
Bonnie and Clyde's bloody end had sold 500,000 newspapers in the city alone. Jeez.
Wow.
At first, Bonnie was laid to rest in Fish Trap Cemetery. But in 1945, her remains were moved to Crown Hill Cemetery in Dallas.
Okay.
Jeez.
Well, Clyde's funeral, who came first?
Okay. All right, why didn't we start with that then?
All right. Well, Clyde's funeral, after all that, but he actually came first. It was sunset, May 25th. His service, small, private, but still impossible to keep quiet. He was buried in Western Heights Cemetery next to his little brother, Marvin.
Big brother, but yeah.
Right, better known as Buck. Their shared granite marker, well, it bears Clyde's chosen words. Gone, but never forgotten. Wow. The public, well, they didn't just want to mourn. They wanted to see, because they're fucking sick fucks.
Right.
Thousands pressed against the Dallas funeral home, straining for a glimpse of the infamous couple. Curiosity killed the cat, and it was ravenous. The relics of the last ride didn't fade. The bullet-riddled Ford Deluxe and Clyde's blood-stained shirt became macabre attractions displayed for decades at fairs, carnivals, and casinos.
Mm-hmm. Well, even the financial aftermath of Bonnie and Clyde was strange. Their life insurance policies paid in full.
Oh, wow.
but the company later rewrote the rules after that. No payouts if the insured dies while committed a crime.
Hey, there you go.
Well, they didn't die while committing a crime.
Right.
I guess technically they were wanted.
Right.
The lawmen who killed them, meanwhile, they were promised tens of thousands in reward money. In reality, they only got about $200 each, plus a couple souvenirs.
Oh, wow.
By the summer of 1934, the world that allowed Bonnie and Clyde to thrive, it was closing fast. Congress passed new statutes making bank robbery and kidnapping federal crimes.
About fucking time. Holy shit.
The FBI was wiring up police cars with two-way radios, too. State lines no longer a shield for outlaws. The end came quick for the rest. Dillinger, dead in Chicago 2 months later. Pretty Boy Floyd in Ohio 3 months after that. And old Babyface Nelson in Illinois a month after him.
They went on. As you guys will, as you see.
Public enemy number one, man. They went on a spree.
Insane. They said, you know what? They're like Trump with the Venezuelan guys. I don't even know if they're drug dealers, but they're on a boat in the water. Kill them.
We're killing them.
Kill them.
Just like that, Bonnie and Clyde's story. It's just still ain't finished, though. Well, it is, though.
Yeah.
Decades later, Bonnie's niece, the last surviving relative, she's campaigned to have her aunt reburied next to Clyde.
Okay.
And it's unknown whether that will ever happen, but the wish they were denied in 1934 still lingers in the air almost a century later.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, it's Bonnie's niece, though.
Yeah.
It's not like it's Clyde's family, so
Right.
I don't see why they wouldn't honor it.
Right.
Well, who cares at this point?
Right. Whatever. To say you did it.
Right.
She's there.
Right. Who cares? Just put a headstone next to his. Who gives a shit?
And dig up just a couple parts of the ground so it looks like it's fresh dirt.
Right. Well, we did it. Fucking did it.
Fucking did it, yeah.
All right, that's Bonnie and Clyde starting off our infamous Most Wanted or America's Most Wanted or Public Enemy number one era or the famous bank robbery era, whatever you want to call this era.
Yeah, this is when the world and the American population became obsessed with criminals. Because most of these guys actually did great things in their communities besides Bonnie and Clyde, but
I don't think any of them did.
a lot of them did great things in their communities. Al Capone,
Yeah, but this is...
Pretty Boy Floyd helped out his neighbors, and
I don't think so.
Babyface Nelson did things.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, they were all bloodthirsty criminals.
Yeah.
Scum. Criminal scum.
They were bad.
But this is probably the time when America started getting desensitized to murders and shit.
Right.
And crime.
Right.
And, yeah, like you said, obsessed
This gets getting crazy.
Obsessed with the next man. This is...
I mean, it got so bad that in the later years, in the 70s and 80s, these motherfuckers wanted to marry serial killers. I love you. I love you. Marry me. Okay, I'll marry and kill you. I will kill you.
They still do. Not serial killers, but the Menendez brothers both got married while they were in prison to chicks they never even met outside of prison.
Fucking insanity.
The
crazy.
Night Stalker guy, Richard Ramirez.
Well,
he was getting like fucking naked pics of chicks and love letters and shit all when he got arrested and shit.
Insanity.
Crazy.